In this video, I'm going to show you how to come up with an equation for the picture of a linear inequality. And so I want to go through just kind of how to find out the equation with you. And what we want to mimic is this function y equals mx plus b. Now the b is your y-intercept where your graph is going to cross the y-axis. And so as I'm looking at this y-axis, I'm looking where this line crosses, and I see that it crosses down here at 1, 2, 3, or -3 on the y-axis. Now if I'm given multiple choice options, I'm going to look for a -3, a -3, a -3. I notice that A, B, and D have that option, but it does not hit at 2/3, so I know that C is not going to be one of my answers. Okay, now as I'm comparing the rest, I notice that the slopes match. So I'm just going to double check and show you how to count that slope. And if the points aren't identified for you, what you want to do is see where your line crosses exactly at the corner of your grid. And I notice it hits a corner here, it hits a corner here, and the count is it's going down 2, right 3, down 2, right 3. So that slope would be -2/3. And the B I didn't write down but was -3. So I noticed that all of these have the same slope and same y-intercept. Now the challenge with the inequality is to pick the correct symbol. So we have less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And so what I would help you distinguish between these two and these two is that there's a solid line underneath. And if you see that solid line underneath, your original line should be a solid line, but our line is dashed. So if I see a solid line underneath my inequality, I'm going to mark that one incorrect because this is a dashed line, and these two symbols here, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, require a solid line. So now I see that I have two choices left, a greater than symbol here for B and a less than symbol here for D. And now this is what you could do to check to make sure. Pick a point that's not on the line. And usually a point that's easy to check would be 0, 0. So I know that 0, 0, that point, is not a solution because it's not in our shaded region. And so what I'm going to do is check to make sure that this point is not true. And so what I'm going to do is plug in 0 and 0 here for x and y. Now if I have a 0 in for my x, this 2/3, -2/3 times 0 is still going to make 0. And what I want to do is check that this point 0, 0 is not true because it's not in the solution zone. So is 0 greater than -3? This is true. So that is not my answer because 0, 0 is not part of my solution, so it should be not true, meaning 0 is less than -3. This is my answer here, D, because the point I was checking was not a solution. Now another way you could do it is pick a point that is for sure a solution, like this 0, -7 you could pick, and you'd want to look for true, but I go for an easy point. Another way that you can identify what your symbol would be is as you're looking at your y-axis, because we're solving for y, I look at the top value and I label that as greater, and I label the bottom graph as less than, meaning the y-axis. So as this goes up, it gets greater. As this goes down, it gets less. Now notice it's shaded on the side where the word less than is, and so I want to pick a less than symbol, and this symbol is less than. And so since it shaded that side of the graph, the lower side, our graph is shaded below, we want less than because the numbers below go smaller and smaller and smaller, meaning less than. I'm going to do a couple more examples here with you, letter B and C in our notebook. And so the first picture here, as I'm looking at my graph, I want to mimic that function that says y equals, but we're going to put an inequality sign in there, mx plus b. So as I'm looking at my picture, I'm going to start with my b here, which is a -4. And I'm going to track my slope. Now notice how they gave me a couple points to make that a little easier. It goes up 1, 2, 3, over 2. So my slope, my m, is 3/2. And now all I got to do is come up with my symbol. So again, if that word greater than and less than helps, 7 is greater, -7 is less than. Now compared to the side that you were shading, see how the side less than was the shaded side? So I want to use a less than symbol here. This line is a dashed line, so no solid line underneath of it. And then here, letter C. 7 is greater, -7 is less than, and I noticed that my graph had shaded the less than side. So I'm thinking about that function, y with my symbol, mx plus b. I know we shaded the less than side, so again, less than. Y is less than. And this is a solid line, so I'm going to use that solid line underneath. Now let's track our b and our slope. So we started our b here, which is -5. And now let's track, it went from here to here, so it went down as it went to the right. So left to right, from my left point to my right point, it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 2, or down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. So I said down 4 over 2, which simplifies to -2 over 1. So -2 for my slope, that goes in front of my x, and my starting point was at -5, and it goes down as it goes towards the right side, so that's why that's negative. All right, stay tuned for a couple more videos on the second day of graphing linear inequalities.